Hello and welcome. You're watching News Central TV. I am Judith TV. Here are the stories making headlines beyond the continent.
President-elect and former President Donald, congratulations.
Thank you.
And looking forward to having like we said, a smooth transition. Do everything we can to make sure you're accommodated, what you need. And we're going to get a chance to talk about some of that today. So
Good.
Welcome
Thank you
back.
very much. And thank you very much. And politics is tough.
And we begin with Donald Trump's return to the White House, where he met with President Joe Biden, making it the Republicans' first visit since departing under a torrent of scandal nearly 4 years ago. Trump's meeting with Biden comes as he moves swiftly to name his administration, including the world's richest man, Elon Musk, as head of a new group aimed at slashing government spending. Biden invited his sworn rival to meet in the Oval Office, despite the fact that 78-year-old Trump, who has consistently refused to admit his 2020 election loss, never afforded Biden the same courtesy. 81-year-old Biden urged a smooth transition of power in the encounter and pushed for continued support for Ukraine. Meanwhile, President-elect Donald Trump has appointed Elon Musk, the world's richest man, to serve in his cabinet. Musk and the former Republican presidential candidate will lead the newly created Department of Government Efficiency. The appointment handed more influence to Musk, who donated over $200 million to helping Trump get elected. Trump says both men will serve and work from outside government and will partner with the Office of Management and Budget to drive large-scale structural reform.
Tonight's person is John Thune.
And staying with U.S. politics, Republican senators have elected John Thune of South Dakota as their new leader, replacing Mitch McConnell, the longest-serving Senate party leader. In the second ballot round, he secured a majority with 29 votes from his colleagues, while his opponent, and that's John Cornyn of Texas, received 24 votes. Florida Senator Rick Scott, the preferred candidate of Trump affiliates, was eliminated after receiving just 13 votes in the first round of voting. In that round, the winner earned 23 votes, while Cornyn garnered 15. Now, John, who currently serves as the minority whip, the second highest ranking position among Republicans, is set to become the majority leader in January once newly elected GOP senators take their seats and the party regains control of the Senate after they secured 53 seats in last week's elections. In the meantime, Poland has opened a U.S. missile base in northern Poland, originally intended to defend the West against threats from the Middle East, a move criticized by Russia. The Redzikowo base, 230 kilometers from the Russian border, has been operational since July but was only officially inaugurated Wednesday. The inauguration comes as Warsaw and its regional allies brace for the U.S. presidency of Donald Trump, who in the past has voiced admiration for Russian President Vladimir Putin. But U.S. Ambassador Mark Brzezinski said at the ceremony he was confident that this close partnership between the two nations will continue.
To jest strategicznie dla Polski jedno z najważniejszych wydarzeń i zdarzeń w historii po 1989 roku. Przez tą instalację, przez bazę amerykańską w Redzikowie, Europa, Stany Zjednoczone, Polska, NATO stają się jeszcze bardziej bezpieczne, stają się najpotężniejszym sojuszem we współczesnym świecie.
President-elect Trump is a friend of Poland. President-elect Trump has been a steadfast supporter of this country and of the Polish people. I am confident that this close partnership between our two nations will continue.
And building our defenses now is vitally important. Global adversaries are becoming ever more aggressive.
Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz has pledged to keep strengthening U.S. ties after Donald Trump's election win and to maintain support for war-torn Ukraine. Speaking in Parliament, the center-left leader gave a spirited defense of his government's record and pointed to the path ahead as he faces snap election set for February 23rd. Scholz' three-party coalition imploded a week ago on the same day that Trump was re-elected to the White House and at a time when Europe's largest economy faces serious headwinds. Scholz said he had a good conversation with Trump just 3 days earlier and stressed that German and U.S. relations have been the foundation of the country's success for decades.
Trump gesprochen, vorweg. Das war ein gutes Gespräch über viele Fragen, die uns miteinander bewegen und im Übrigen ein wichtiges Zeichen, übrigens über Parteigrenzen hinweg. Aus meiner Sicht ist die gute transatlantische Zusammenarbeit zwischen Europa und den USA, die gute transatlantische Zusammenarbeit zwischen Deutschland und den USA seit Jahrzehnten eine Grundlage des Erfolgs unseres Landes, und wir sollten auch in den nächsten Jahrzehnten, egal wer da und dort regiert, alles dafür tun, dass diese Beziehungen sich weiter gut entwickeln. Dass es gleichzeitig aus meiner Sicht auch in der nächsten Zeit darauf ankommt, dass wir alles dafür tun, dass dieser Krieg nicht weiter eskaliert und wir nicht Kriegspartei werden. Ich habe letzte Woche den Bundesminister der Finanzen entlassen. Das hat zu Veränderungen der politischen Landschaft in Deutschland geführt. Und ich habe die Gründe dafür letzte Woche genannt und will hier noch einmal eindrücklich und ausdrücklich sagen, diese Entscheidung war richtig und sie war unvermeidlich.
You're watching Headlines Beyond the Continent. Let's go on a short break. When we return, Spain evacuates thousands in fresh flood alarm. We'll tell you more after the break. Join us again. And you're welcome back. Now in other news beyond the continent, Azerbaijan's President Ilham Aliyev has criticized French crimes in its overseas territories, citing the recent human rights violations. Now speaking at the COP29 climate conference in Baku, Aliyev addresses the bloody protest that rocked New Caledonia in May. He said the regime of President Macron killed 13 and injured 169. France's ecology minister has cancelled her visit to the climate summit over this remark.
France's crimes in the so-called overseas territories would not be complete if we do not mention the recent human rights violations by the regime. The regime of President Macron killed 13 and injured 169 people during this year's legitimate protests of Kanaks in New Caledonia.
A fresh draft of a UN climate deal has offered wide-ranging options to raise funding for poorer countries, signaling that tough negotiations remain at the COP29 talks in Baku. The Prime Minister of the Bahamas calls to look beyond borders during national statements in the plenary session, while his counterpart from Grenada stressed that partnership to finance climate adaptation would work in the best interests of the planet and of all of mankind. Planet warming, carbon dioxide emissions from oil, gas and coal rose to record highs this year, according to preliminary research from an international network of scientists at the Global Carbon Project. The report came as leaders gathered in Azerbaijan for COP29 climate talks aimed at reaching a deal to boost funding for poorer nations so they can adapt to climate shocks and transition to cleaner energy.
I ask you to look beyond borders, beyond flags, The fires that devour your forests, the hurricanes that shatter our homes are not distant misfortunes, but shared tragedies. What we endure, you endure. What we lose, you lose.
Life goes on with its old habits, and our speeches full of good words about fighting climate change change nothing.
The stuck question is, are we failing? We must seize what may be our last opportunity.
The reality is, we're not here to beg. We're not here to ask for sympathy. We are here to say that it's one planet. It may be small island developing states today. It will be Spain tomorrow. It will be Florida the day after. It's one planet. And the partnership that we are asking for, the partnership to finance climate adaptation, the partnership to finance climate resilience, is a partnership that works in the best interests of the planet.
And joining us to give perspective on this is Peters Omoragbo. He is the Executive President, Nurses Across the Borders International and first UNFCCC designated contact person from Nigeria since 2004. Oh, Peters, many thanks for joining us. We appreciate you for doing this with us. Let's get started. As a participant, right, what has been the height of the discussion so far at the COP29 conference?
Thank you very much, Television Central, for having me. And well, in regards to your question, you could see from the speeches that have been made from the leaders of the world countries, the expectations have been heightened in such a way that most leaders, most countries are shying away from coming to Baku because of differences with what is happening between the government and all that. You just had the president of Azerbaijan accusing France. But beyond that is the fact that we should not lose sight of how we got to Baku, because Baku, or COP29, is what is termed finance COP. Because here, COP29, the countries are going to be discussing or try to finalize discussion on how to finance climate change adaptation and mitigation for developing countries. You must recall that in 2009, the UNFCCC with the other countries, among the countries, agreed that $100 billion was to be a mark for developing countries by 2020. That means by the year 2020, the developed countries were supposed to have been giving the low-income countries about $100 billion. But that has been extended to 2025. And what they are still discussing, or what's been discussed today, is how to reach the $100 billion that was promised since 2009. And you can agree that currently the estimated amount as at today that will be required to meet this demands has increased to about $2.3 trillion. So if within the last 15 years nothing has been done, so one is worried. So that is the background as to the concern by most of us, and even countries that are affected by the impact of climate change. You could see from the various speakers. So as it is right now, we are all watching with bated breath as to what will be the final draft document. COP29 is just 3 days away. Today is the 10th, decided on the 11th, and so we still have about 9 to 10 more days to go before the end. And so we are hopeful that irrespective of the differences, political differences among countries with regards to how they see Azerbaijan, we hope that the countries will put the people first and forget about their political differences, because climate change is not an emerging threat, but climate change is a global emergency that needs to be addressed by every leader.
Right. I mean, there are countries that are facing the immediate effect of climate change, right, and they're being affected. How can those countries particularly foster stronger partnerships to ensure that, financing for climate adaptation is equitable and, most importantly, accessible?
Well, I think what they need to do is to mobilize. They also need to synergize and also harmonize. You see, there's a need for them to speak with one voice. Because if you look at, let me be open, if you look at the developed countries, if there's anything you cannot take away from them, is their ability to work together. But developing nations and Africa, Asia, that unity is not there. If they can come together and synergize to speak with one voice and then make their demands, they don't need to even wait for any permission to execute or make any demands from the developed countries. That will go a long way to helping these countries. But a situation whereby you cannot also roll out the divide and rule by the developed nations, because the developed nations know that the moment the developing countries are united, they're going to have problem. And don't also forget that the developed countries actually rely on the oil that is coming from the developing countries. So majority, about 75% of all the exportation of fossil fuel are from developing countries. So if you want to, if I'm to advise them, they could also use that as a weapon. If they come together and make a demand that if you do not meet this target, if we do not meet this requirement for us to be able to mitigate or create an environment to adapt to the effect of the climate change that is emanating from their production, then they could say, okay, we're going to withhold our sale of oil to them. So that is going to the extreme anyway, but all they need to do is to find ways to synergize among themselves, speak with one voice, and then provide to the developing countries what their demands are, and they should stand by it. So they should not sell themselves away by trying to get one aid from one developing country, from one developed country to their country, and then you see some of the countries now changing their position on most of their demands. So I think if they can speak and unite in that regard, a lot will be achieved. But from the speakers so far within the last 3 years and the positions, I think they have also come to agree and accept the fact that if there's nothing that they need than to unite to confront the global emission coming mostly from the developed nations, affecting the developing countries.
All right, Peter, I must say thank you so much for taking out the time today to join us and just have a more, just give perspective on the ongoing COP29. Peter Omorogbo is our guest today. He's Executive President, Nurses Across the Borders International. Once again, thank you.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
And now we head to Spain, where residents are grappling with impact of climate change. The government has begun evacuating thousands of people and closed schools as torrential rains lashed the country 2 weeks after its worst floodings in a generation killed more than 220 people. National Weather Office, ANOS, placed the southern province of Malaga and the northeastern Catalonia region on red alert, the highest level for strong rains expected to last until Friday. It forecast up to 180 millimeters of rain could fall there in just 12 hours, while less severe downpours struck the eastern Valencia region, already devastated by the floods. Emergency services in the southern Andalusia region said more than 1,000 homes and almost 3,000 residents had been evacuated in and around the city of Malanga.
Han abierto todas las alcantarillas para que se pueda llevar todo el agua posible. Hay máquinas ahora mismo, también me han dicho unos vecinos que están haciendo una barricada para mantener y que no lleguen a nuestras calles, que llegue el menos agua posible. Porque
nos ha ido muy bien, desde anoche estábamos más que avisados, después esta mañana como a las 10 y pico, 11, ya han pasado por las calles la policía avisando, todo el mundo, vamos, muy bien, el despliegue muy bien y creo que no ha sido exagerado para nada. Es verdad que esta mañana cuando nos levantamos pensamos, bueno, más vale prevenir.
And that's all at this hour and stories beyond the continent. Now remember that you can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422. We're also on Star Times channel 274. You can find us on Avo TV, or better yet, you can stream us live on YouTube. For watching, I am Judith at TV. Bye for now.